Good morning, everybody. It's definitely not morning. It is 8 p.m. here, but we got a special stream coming your way. So what's up, everybody hanging out on YouTube? You might have noticed at this point, if you already here, and I'm going to shout this out for the first time today, there is no live chat on the YouTube stream tonight. Instead, chat will be done on the official PvP Discord. So for me as a streamer, it's a little bit strange to not have like YouTube chat just kind of open there on the side, but I am in the Discord, and more importantly, I need to not be focusing on chat tonight because this is a special stream. This is sponsored by Square Enix. It's all about the official 2023 championship, bringing some players in. Some of you guys who registered to join are going to be coming in tonight, and I'm just going to be talking with you about auto PvP in general. You know, tips, tricks. You guys submitted questions. We're going to be going over those. So I want my focus to be laser focused on the people I'm actually bringing into Discord, on the people I'm actually chatting with, instead of, you know, random YouTube chatters asking me about my cats or Baby J or something like that. Either way, thank you guys for being here. Let me just check my audio levels real quick. Make sure my mic's working. My mic looks to be working. Make sure the background music's at an appropriate level. That looks good. And then here in a minute, we're going to bring in our first guest of the day. And I think we're going to like go over a ton of stuff about auto PvP. Like, I looked at the questions. All the questions are really good, and I hope I'm up to answering them. But we'll see. I'm really looking forward to chatting with people. Having multiple guests on a stream, new for me, but I got to do a little bit of housekeeping first. So a couple things. Like I mentioned, this is a stream all about the 2023 championship. So I want to show off a couple things right here. We do still have a couple rounds left before the grand finals. September 16th, you see right here on the screen, that's the next one. So the 16th of next month, that's going to be in that European time zone. Then we have two last chance qualifiers on October 21st and November 11th, followed by the Auto PvP Grand Championship on December 9th and the Manual PvP Grand Championship on December 16th. Those, of course, won't be on my YouTube channel. They will be on the official Square Enix channels, those kind of things. But this one is on my YouTube channel. This is my stream. Notice my partner in crime, Justin, is not here. So I got to carry this one alone. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'd usually do that anyway. Okay, now next up, here's a little bit more info. The Ovis Cup, which is the next cup coming up. You can see that that's the one on the 16th. You see right here on the screen. Registration for that is still open. So if you want to play in the next manual PvP tournament, again, it's at that European time zone time. You can see right here, it's at the actual live stream will start at 6 Pacific time, but the tournament itself will start at 2. So if those time zones work for you, jump in there. And one of the big points of the stream today is to take a little bit of the pressure off. I think there's been a lot of people, and I know this because I've heard this from some people, hesitant to sign up for these. And we've had plenty of sign up. It's not like we're hurting for them, but I wanted to take some of the pressure off of players who maybe don't have the biggest account. Maybe you're not a day one player. Maybe you're not somebody who just wails really hard. It's a little intimidating knowing you might have to go up against somebody from like a Visipor or something like that. But just look at what happened in the last tournament. The winner, Cerebu, I believe, yeah, who won the last tournament, free-to-play player, took down Hiso from Visipor. So look, I mean, money spent does not necessarily equal wins in this game if you built your account right. And if you know the things that I think we're going to talk about today, that can really help you out, especially in the auto scene. And yo, look, man, we'll do one of these pretty soon again for the manual scene. Don't know if I'm supposed to announce that tonight, but another one of these coming up for manual, and I will have a special guest host with me on that one. Someone else y'all know. I'm not going to say anything more yet because I probably wasn't supposed to say that, but hey, it is what it is. So like I said, I'm going to say this one more time right now. If you want to chat for this one, please do join the official Discord server. One of my little side goals tonight is get more signups to that official Discord server. We have a ton of people on there, but we keep getting rewards to all of us for the more players who join that. So please do take the moment. The link to that Discord is in the description to this live stream. Just click that link and join. Help everybody out. Okay, let me get set up here. I'm going to go ahead and tell the people I got working in the background that I'm ready for some people to join here. Let me take care of just one more thing. Of course, I got to edit a thing or two as I go. Okay, so let me see here. I got to edit the info on the stream a little bit. I want to make sure that Discord link is live. There we go. All right, done. Yep, just double check. The Discord link does work. Somebody was sending me a message that's saying it wasn't. I just checked it. It works. If you click that thing and it doesn't take you there, so it's you, not me. That's what, don't ever use that on like on a girlfriend. Probably don't say it's you, not me. If you ever, listen, let's get to War of the Visions. All right, here we go. So I'm going to go ahead, tell the people in the background that I'm ready for the first player. Send that little message. And Choice to Live, I believe, is our first player. So he's going to be moving into the interview channel. And once he's here, we're going to talk about several things. Now, like I mentioned, these players did submit specific questions before. I'm using, like on my main account here, I have mostly everything. So I don't think there's a question that could be asked tonight that I won't be able to address with my account. If I can't, well, I could talk hypothetically about one or two people or something like, or one or two units, vision cards, something like that. But I think I could probably build about any team that we need to look at, vision cards, espers, all of that stuff. So, okay, I'm waiting for Choice to Live to jump into the channel. The things we're going to be talking about first. So these are things that interest you. If these are questions that you have, this will be a good part of the video for you to watch. One thing he wants to talk about is choosing the right vision cards for the party. I got a lot to say about that, especially when talking about the way auto PvP works. I definitely think there's some like vision cards that when you're building a squad for auto PvP at that like competitive level that feel like must have. So I'm going to mention those. We're going to talk about how to order units and prioritize units. This is something I talk about a lot. This is something I talk about a lot, just when I'm like reviewing a unit, and it's really important. It's definitely something that if you're not ordering your units correctly in your groups, that is going to end up costing you a bit. Okay, so here, let me see here. I'm trying to just organize all this here in the background. Again, Justin always does all this stuff, and yeah, it is what it is. So I got her done. We're going to sit people in here. Then the other question is complementing a team with the right sub jobs. That is important. Definitely. Okay. So somebody has joined me in the channel. Choice, are you here?
I am here. Hello. How are you?
Hello. Okay. Can I go ahead and have you? I'm going to make sure I get your audio sounding good. Can you just talk about yourself for a second? And I'm going to adjust your volume.
So I am a English teacher for high school. And
my man.
So, you know the challenge of how in the world do I find time to like tweak units and make builds and like get my gear ready and figure out VCs in the 4 minutes a day I have.
Dude, absolutely. Like it is a struggle. And the year, I don't know about you, your school year probably just started as well, right?
Yep. This week.
Yeah, so here we are. Okay, so Choice, your first question of the day. We're going to try to stick, I'm going to try to do like 10, 15 minutes a guest here. So we're going to try to stick to the questions that you submitted. So your first question was choosing the right vision cards for a party. I'm going to open up like my party builder here. Do you have a specific team that you're looking for vision cards for, specific element, or is it just kind of more of a generic question?
So kind of both. Being an English teacher, I'm used to taking that general and going to specific. So on the general side, when you're getting ready to build a comp, how do you figure out which VCs to go for? And specifically right now, I've got the Earth comp going on. So Bradley,
so Eileen,
oh yeah, it's
okay. So probably something more along the lines of Bradley, Dialdo, those kind of guys.
Yeah, Bradley, Dialdo, Queen Macherie.
Okay, Bradley, Dialdo, Queen Macherie. Great. Okay, so let me just go ahead. I'm gonna like work on this team kind of as we talk about this, and specifically with vision cards. I think there's a couple things right now in the game. I'll call them like non-negotiables when it comes to vision cards. I think if you're trying to compete at that like top of the level, you gotta have at least AoE resist, and if you can layer single target resist on there, especially if you're running a tank, I think that's a big deal. So what do you have that? Like, are you running with that already?
right now I kind of have whatever Earth VCs I could find thrown in there.
Okay.
Because I don't know much about PvP. I haven't been looking at it too much until just the recent, 6 months. So I'm still kind of at the newbie stage and where to start when refining a comp.
Definitely. Okay, so when talking about Earth, like I'm going to bring up a couple vision cards that I think are going to be really good for Earth. Now, Dark Golem is the first one I'm going to mention. Do you have Dark Golem?
I do.
At all? Dark vision card espers can be tough to get sometimes.
Yeah, I lucked out and got that one.
Perfect. Okay, so I can keep rolling with that. So Dark Golem will give you a lot, but most importantly, it's giving you that area resist up for your group. Then if you can combine that with like a card like I can never say this word, Rampaging Orbeast Eleficarus. Oh man, that one's hard. The Earth Deer, that has that unit resist 20 on it. Do you have like, now that card can be a little bit hard to work in to the comp you mentioned, because the comp you mentioned had Queen Macherie. So like my Earth team that I'm using right now has Oberon instead. And so I use Eleficarus on Oberon to kind of give me that essentially like 20% survivability to my group. So with Queen Macherie, like if I was throwing her in, one thing you could do with her, if you sort your vision cards by like Earth element, so I'll get that set up, you do have some good options here. Dreams of Heroism does have area attack resist on it. It's a card I've used with Macherie before. I just don't love kind of the other parts of it. So I guess like if I'm going to try to be focused, my goal here is be laser focused on the questions. I think you need to find AoE resist and single target resist. So if you don't have like the Earth Deer, Odin would be a good example. And Odin is a card that a lot of people have access to with that single target resist on it. And then something else I really think you want to have with an Earth team, or any team really, is agility. So for Earth, you're looking at a card like Halloween Monsters. It has that like agility buff on it. And even if you can't even work it in until that sub slot, like if you're trying to compete in these championship events, assume that the people you're playing against are going to have, high agility TMRs equipped with maybe agility trust stones, and they're definitely going to be fast. Like no team is going to be slow at the high end. And so an agility vision card is definitely something you want to look for. And then after that, like just kind of speaking more generally, look for things. If you're mixing up your damage, elemental attack is a good thing, like earth attack up. If you're running a mono physical team, you have cards like Noctis's card, which give that big attack boost up. So really what I think, for me, like the non-negotiables are the AoE resist, the agility, mix in that single target resist as you can, and then look towards damage, right? Look towards making your team actually kill the enemy, which at the end of the day is the goal. So does that kind of answer the question?
Yeah. So given the current meta, like how do I determine if I want to swap out a unit like Macherie? I can swap her out for Oberon and whatever his name is.
Yep.
Like I can swap her out for him just fine. So like when do I know whether I want to keep that team as is, if I want to swap out for that? Like how do I tell which unit is underperforming or doing well?
Sure. So like with the Bradley Dialdo team, that's the heart, right? Like that's the meta. I think almost any third unit I feel like can work with that. One of the beauties of Queen Macherie is that she does give you that magic component to it. And if you throw her in there, she does have the arithmetician sub job. So like in a Guild Wars setting, especially for like Guild Wars defense, or if you're trying to win 2 rounds of Guild Wars, you might get some clutch healing from her, which can help you with Dialdo a lot, because this guy, especially if you have Red Mage on for him, sometimes, and I've noticed this, like he can heal, but sometimes you don't want him to heal. Sometimes you want him to do other things, like get his buffs on. So adding Queen Macherie allows you to like turn his healing off, let her kind of do that. Also with Oberon, a thing I really like about him is just, I feel like the reason I'm using him over her is I just really like his shield. I like that he can give himself that shield, makes him a little bit harder to kill. The elemental spear I think is really, really good. And so that's kind of been my thought with Oberon. He also gives that AoE resist buff, so I'm really stacking some AoE resist. I just try to make, I think when I have Dialdo, anytime I'm using a top tier tank like him, I really try to set up to make that unit as impossible to kill as I can. That's kind of what I go for. So with my Dialdo, I'm lucky that I played during the Nier era, so I have access to Pod, which gives me unit attack resist, and then I have Oberon buff the AoE resist, just to kind of add those layers of resist to him. I felt like I rambled a little bit, but did that make sense?
That's perfect. Though that does bring me to kind of one of the other things when looking at sub jobs and VCs.
Yep.
How do you know which abilities you should turn off and which abilities you should leave live?
Definitely. So for this one, and I don't know if you have the stream open, but I'm going to talk about, I'll use Oberon as an example again, and I'll use Bradley as an example. So with this comp, when I'm trying to like layer that AoE resist, like buff up that AoE resist as much as I can, I look at Oberon and I look at a move like Purple Dragon's Providence, which is critical evasion, AoE resist, and it gives him defense piercing rate. Like there's a lot to love about that skill, but understand that if you're running a tank and Oberon is within range of that tank, he's going to prioritize moving to him and giving that buff. So priority for buffing works in a couple of ways, and I'm sure this is something I'll touch on a lot tonight. But let's say you have no tank in your group. If that's the case, the unit in slot 1 where King Bradley is in this team will have the priority. So units in slot 2 will look to buff units in slot 1 typically over just self-buffing. And then it works with 2 to 3 and 3 to 1 as well. So that unit in slot 1 has priority, unless you have a unit that has hate. So like Dialdo, for example, has hate. He's a tank. He has that hate when he walks into a fight. So in that case, it will draw the other characters to him. So for what I'm doing with this team, and this works really well in my opinion, on maps where you have more than one turn of buffing, like a little bit longer maps where you have a couple of turns before the actual fighting begins, I like to draw my units together, give them a chance to buff each other. So for like King Bradley, that buff includes like blink of an eye. So this is that pierce missile resist buff, which again, really good, especially on long range maps. And then it gives him his preemptive strike. So it helps Bradley not just overextend and outrange the tank, which is a really bad deal. And then for Dialdo, one thing I like about having him be the slowest of the 3 units and drawing the other 2 units to him is I can then take advantage of him casting a group buff. So something like right here, I have Starlight Elena's TMR on him for the Aurora of Blessings. So I can look to fight light or dark teams and then add kind of another layer of survivability by having a unit that usually is selfish with his buffs. Hey, if I have a long map and I know I'm going to be able to let him buff in the next turn, it gives me the option. I don't always do it, but it gives me the option of having him do a group buff without forcing him to spend a turn moving laterally. He can group buff because the units are already right next to him, and then use his movement to extend forward, because obviously you want him being the unit who's getting hit and not your carries. So that's how I kind of think about initial placement. And then on a shorter map with somebody like Oberon, I would turn off his group buff, even though it's really good, because I think Oberon really needs to get his Aegis buff online. That barrier pierce attack buff, like I think that's just core to who he is. So if it was a shorter map, or you have a unit that starts far away from the rest of your team, turn off their group buffs and then focus on their better like self buffs. Otherwise, you could end up in a situation where they accidentally are close to somebody and then they get weird, like moving around. So did that kind of answer that?
Yeah. So how do you determine like your unit placement in terms of, does the tank go in the middle? Does the tank go, there's a couple maps where you want the tank on the 3rd slot because it's just not going to engage properly. Like, how do you figure out placement for which unit in which slot?
Okay. Yeah, so definitely okay, a couple things. One is it's map dependent. Like there's definitely some maps and you'll have to just try this out because there's so many maps honestly, I don't remember how all of the maps work off the top of my head, but a unit with initial hate like a tank can do 2 things. One, you can use it to bring units to him, like we just talked about, but you can also use it to mess with the movement of the other team. On certain maps, if you throw your tank to like the far left or the far right, it can kind of funnel the enemy that way. Now, if they're set up to buff in a certain way, like if they've kind of preempted that movement and they have group buffs turned on, their initial turn will more or less look the same. But once they start moving, they will start filtering over towards that unit with hate if they have the option to. And then on those maps, if you have a unit, if there's a spot on the map that is solo, right? Like somebody's going to be by themselves because they're like 4 or 5 spots away. I think about that 2 ways. One, like let's say that's slot 1. Let's say you're on a map and slot 1 is move 5, jump 2 away from everything else. So right now I have Bradley in slot 1. What I would do in that case is make sure I gave Bradley like sub-job operative and had his subterfuge would be off, but shadow dance would be on. So he'd pop that barrier, and then I'd make sure to give him a good TMR, like his own TMR, so he could just go ahead and start working his way to the fight. But by giving himself that barrier and then having another good self buff, which usually comes from a TM. I feel like most units have about 1 really good self buff in general. Some have more than that, but I would look to do that 1 really good self buff and then have a TMR that I really want him to pop, something that gives him haste, AP restore, something like that. And then let the fight work to the other 2 units, the tank and your other unit. And then have him kind of come in off of a flank, which will happen quite a bit. Or you can you could move your tank to slot 1. Like in this case, I could swap Bradley and Dialdo and then have Oberon and Bradley turn their group buffs on. So they move to each other, buff each other first, while Dialdo, who's self-buffing, moves forward, kind of bringing the fight to Dialdo. Let Bradley and Oberon stand next to each other, hit themselves with buffs, and then they kind of move in together. And ideally right there, you'd have their agility synced pretty close so that when one of them, hoping they would get to the enemy at the same time, have one of them attack, have the second one follow up, build that elemental chain. And hopefully the whole time, Dialdo's able to survive, or Joom, or whoever your tank is. And then if you're not using a tank, just, hey, whoever you, put Sephiroth over there and just let him do Sephiroth things, or put Bradley over there. You know, put some kind of like solo beast over there.
Okay.
Yeah, the thing to never do, here's the unit to never put by themselves, is a support, like a true support unit, like an Ayaka, or units that just want to stand there and buff, because they'll just stand there and buff themselves so the fight's over. And usually the fight ends with the enemy coming to them after their other 2 teammates are dead and just dogpiling them.
Right. Yeah, I've had that happen a number of times.
Oh yeah.
When do you know, like, when do you run a tank and when do you not run a tank? Is that dependent just on the meta? Is it dependent on the units? Like, what determines whether a tank is right or not?
Yeah, so I think it's just element, right? Like, if I'm playing Earth, I'm probably going to run Dialdo just because he's really strong. I would never run like a weak tank. Also, in cost limited, I like tanks. I think cost limited tanks, you just get a lot of bang for your buck from like a mod, right? Like, it's easier, in my opinion, to make a unit hard to kill than it is to make a unit do a lot of damage. And so I think I like to run tanks in cost limited. Dario, throughout the history of this game, has kind of been a favorite of mine. MR, Mont, Balo, who just got that huge buff. I mean, like, is he really a tank? I don't know, it's Balo. He's kind of a tank. But I think in cost limited situations, a cost limited tank is really good. Same with a cost limited support, honestly. Then I think there are elements that don't necessarily like to run a tank as much. And I feel like the meta has moved at least a little bit away from tank healer, but you can definitely still do it. I feel like you can play about anything right now if you have, like, as long as one of your units is in that, like, top tier, like is really strong. Dialdo being an example of that. Joom Forever was a unit that I ran as a tank just because she was so hard to kill that the rest of my team could clean up. Now, if I didn't want to run a tank, I think then it's a really good time to look towards like maybe a weapon type team. Strike comes into example. Yes, you can run a strike team with like both of the Full Metal Alchemist brothers, but you can also run a strike team with just strike damage dealers. And then you really just want to make them into bruisers. Like, you want them to not get 1 or 2 shot. And as long as you can make a team of damage dealers that are not going to get killed as soon as the enemy gets in range of them, I think you're fine. And then if they don't die, the theory is you have enough damage to kill them before they kill you, right? It's just a damage race. So that's how I think about it. But yeah, Earth, I have not run Dial though since I built him, because I just think he's that good and changes a fight.
Okay. And
right.
Kind of the last question,
Sure.
Where are good places to look to get information about PvP stuff, about, you know, character builds and about like putting teams together, like as I'm trying to learn the craft, as it were, like where are the best places to find, you know, videos or guides or whatever?
I think like that's a really good question. That's a hard question. I'm going to shout out the official Discord. I think I should shout that out because there are good discussions in here all the time. My personal Discord, there is always people talking about these kind of things in there, or there's always people discussing War of the Visions in there. And I think that's a good place to go. Any of the big guild Discords, I think, is the kind of hidden gem of this game. The Salt Squad, that's my guild's. That's my guild's Discord. We have so many channels and so many people talking about stuff in there all the time. It's honestly hard to follow it all, but there's just this massive amount of players who love the game, and if asked a question, are just waiting to chime in. So I would look towards the bigger guilds Discords. And then like I always have my Discord and my guild's Discord in the chats, and then the official PvP Discord. That's definitely one of the thoughts behind creating this, is as a space for PvPers to kind of come together. This being the first year of it, we're trying to build it up. So like events like this are trying to help build that up, make the discussions here, you know, something that's just a little bit more happening all the time. So there we go.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, man. Well, hey, thank you for joining the stream, Choice. I think we definitely went over our time, but you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, we're teachers. We do that.
Exactly. Yes, we are good at listening to ourselves talk.
All right. Thank you.
Hey, really appreciate it, man. Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you. All right, guys. So there we go. One down. I'm going to go ahead and notify that I'm ready for the next participant. And yeah. Okay, I'm going to look in the Discord chat for a second too, see what the discussions going on are like. Okay. Get in there, guys. Get in there. I don't have a YouTube chat going, so I will jump in to the discussion tab in the official PvP Discord. If you have questions for me, and since you can't drop them in chat, drop them in there. I'll see, I'll notice, I'll read them occasionally. In the meantime, Kazin is the next player. Kazan Whitewind. Somebody I've talked to several times, somebody I've seen around a lot. Here's the kind of, oh, here he is. Kazin, what's going on?
Hello, old friend. How's it going?
It's good. It's good. It's been a minute. I
minute.
feel like there's so many people in this game, and here, let me I'm going to adjust your volume a little bit. I feel like you probably you're a little louder than the last person. So why don't you introduce yourself for a second, and I will adjust your volume during that.
A little louder. That certainly describes me. Yes, I'm Kazin. I've been playing since day one. I'm one of the administrators of the War of the Visions community Discord server. And yeah, just really happy to be able to chat about the game and about how people can get involved in some of these tournaments and enjoy them. So
good opportunity here, because Choice mentioned like where do people go to answer questions or talk PvP. Give the official Discord a shout out, and then maybe like link that in the discussion, just shout out your Discord a little bit here, because I think that's a good option. I think it's a good place for people to go.
Certainly, of course.
All right, now, Kazin, you're a day one player. I think you just said that. So day one player joining in. Your questions were this. You had 3 questions that you put in. Trust stone synergy and creating better chance. I think that's like definitely something we were going to have to talk about at some point tonight. Top skills review to turn on and off and commonly underestimated. And then positioning of units and speed.
Yeah.
Okay.
All about strategy.
Yeah. All right, so go ahead. Okay, let's start with trust stones. Did you have like a specific trust stone question, or do you just want me to like talk about what I think are the non-negotiables of trust stones?
I think trust stones, I mean, if you dig into them enough on your own, you're going to learn quite a bit. There's a lot of grinding, there's a lot of farming, there's a lot of chance, but really it comes down to getting those niche skills, those things you want.
Okay. All right, so I think the first thing I will say about trust stones is I feel like a reasonable rate to acquire a full set. And what I mean by a full set, and I'm going to go into my trust stone, like a trust stone page that I built up on the screen, is full on like a built out. Let me sort this. It's better if I could show what I'm talking about while I'm doing it. Agility.
Of course.
Okay, so like King Bradley's eye patch. This is one that I've used so much since it came out, and every stone that I have on here is maxed out. So 2 passives on each one. They're all leveled up. This is, I think, one fully built out trust stone set a month is a very reasonable and obtainable goal for anybody, from people who are just starting the game to people who like have played forever. And if you stay at that pace, which means like farming rooms a couple times a week, making sure you're catching those double drop days, at least on a couple of weeks for each letter. If you just do that for a while, before you know it, you have like options with your trust stones. A couple of things that I think are like you mentioned, you'll eventually just find the things that you're looking for. Something I always look for, like things that I will basically not live without, is HP up on the defense side. Like I make sure one of my stones has HP up. And even though some gear will cancel that out, because if you guys didn't know,
that's a commonly underestimated trust stone ability.
Yes, it is. It is, because but the thing is, it's just more HP. And even though some gear, like for example, a +6 Brigandine has max HP 15%, and additional abilities from gear won't stack with additional abilities from trust stones. So what? Like, it doesn't, like, that's not actually a big deal. Just if it happens that they don't work out every once in a while, fine. But most gear doesn't have HP up on it, so you might as well give every one of your units that you're planning to go like hardcore with 10% more HP, or that 10% HP buff. It's not, the formula is not that it's exactly 10%. But critical evasion, I think, is another very commonly underestimated one. Then critical rate and critical damage, those are things that I look for on the offensive side. Luck, just always have luck. Luck up is good for evasion units. It's good for accuracy.
Everybody can use a little luck.
Everybody could use a little luck. Reaction block rate 20, have that on every unit. Look, reflex sucks, and it sucks to get reflex. Have reaction block rate on your trust stones. You won't regret it. And then after that, attacker magic. Like, again, sometimes this will be overridden by a more powerful buff on a piece of gear, but 20% attack or 20% magic as an additional ability on a trust stone is insane, and it gives you the ability to run gear that doesn't otherwise have that, and you don't have to worry about getting that buff. So that's what I look for. And then my favorite generic sets is just HP on the left, agility on the right. It's just like when I was talking to Choice, I assume everybody I'm fighting is fast. Like speed is like, just assume they're gonna have 120 agility, and you should probably try to have that too. You're never gonna have 120 unless you're buffing, or you're King Bradley, because he has haste, CT up, 157 agility, and all of the above. But okay,
good assumption.
Yeah, just assume he's gonna like get 7 turns, always. Okay, so there we go. I think that was a good little hit on trust stones real quick. How about question 2? I'm trying to pace this a little better than I did with Choice, because we did like 20 minutes with him, and this is only an hour to an hour and a half live stream. So, okay.
Well, he kind of touched on a lot of the things that I wanted to touch on as well. You know, we're all going to tend to have similar questions, but when it comes to turning on and off abilities, what are some commonly underestimated ones?
Okay, so I think there is value in any ability that a unit has that groups them. And so I think, like, as a generic answer to this, like, I'm just going to click on some unit. I'm going to click on Lucio.
Oh,
so,
we know Lucio. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody's got Lucio, right? So if we look at Lucio's abilities here, any buff, any ability that brings you to your allies, so greater domain of light, for example, even if you might not necessarily always want slash attack resist and dark resist, it still will stop him from running forward. And sometimes in PvP, stopping units from running forward and just dying is valuable. And you don't always have the like Lucio you might want to run bells. Maybe you're a newer player and you spent all your like guild medals on Giza. Lucio's your guy. You're giving him Giza's bells. Well, okay, now you don't have a group buff trust master, but you still don't want your Lucio like sacrificing himself. So that's a good skill. At that point, like, who cares about the buff if it keeps him from dying, being alive? Like the best ability is availability. Like, take that, injured athletes. Like, it's
he's still a fledgling warrior of the crystal. You don't want to send him out right away.
He's a fledgling warrior of the crystal who's about to enter his 3rd season in War of the. It is what it is. Okay, June will show him the ways. Otherwise. How about I'm gonna hit you with like some overrated or things that I think people should think about turning off a little bit too.
That's really good. Yeah.
I think there's a lot of units in the game. I'm gonna use. Let's see here. Who do I want to use as an example? Of course, like right now, I'm not gonna have anybody off the top of my head. But there's a lot of units. Okay, I'm gonna use a tank.
Some reaction units are really like Mirage with Laswell has become really like lower paced because we have multi-hit attack now.
Yeah. Moshery, regular Moshery is a unit that really suffers there because she has this really good buff. It's like, I think you should, if you're ever using regular Moshery in PvP, leave Calamity Strongguard on. It's insane. But it's a 1-hit damage reduction. So like, so many units in the game are going to be like, yeah, I'm going to 3-hit you right now. Yep. The smallest hit, which is the first one, is going to pop that shield, and then you're going to take full damage from 2 and 3. So yeah, like multi-hit attacks really kind of run over those kind of things. I agree. But what I was talking about here, I'm looking at Warrior of Light. I think he's the perfect example of a unit who might have some good moves that you just turn off anyway. Because with him, like, here's what you want Warrior of Light to do. You want him buffing his hate, okay, so that's Brave Presence. You want him giving himself a shield, okay. You want him healing himself, okay, because for some reason he's a great healer of himself. What you don't care about him doing is damage, probably, even though Holy Bravery is a large damage move, the range on it is 4. I take a unit like Warrior of Light, and I have it up on my screen right now, and I bet you I just have this set up this way. I bet you I have every move of his that's over range 1 off. So Holy Bravery off, Shift Attack off. Like, cool, yeah, I want him to be up in an enemy's face, but I don't want him going there from 4 away. I would so much rather him buff himself, make himself harder to kill. Shining Sword, hey, great move, give himself regenerate, but range 4? No, I want my Warrior of Light not standing far away. I want him up in the enemy's face, but I want him taking advantage of every turn on the way to either give himself more defense, give himself a shield, things like that. Alternatively with him, you can look at moves like Stop Strike. It's a shorter range move, but it has a chance of inflicting a status effect. Any move that inflicts a devastating status effect, disable, stop, confusion, any of those things, sometimes are not only worth keeping on, sometimes they're worth juicing a unit's faith up to 97 because it can win a fight by itself.
He's like, very distracting. Don't look at the man behind the curtain.
Yeah, just boom. Okay, so there we go. I think that's a good, like, I think that answered the question, right? Like, that's kind of how I think about it.
Yeah, there's a lot of moves that get underestimated and ones that get adjusted according to the meta you need to be aware of.
Yep. And anything, hey, if you can ever, I have my King Mott at 97 faith, and I get a lot of flack is the word I'll use for that, because they say, hey, he's a tank. 97 faith increases the magic damage he takes. I'm like, yes, but he also inflicts Berserk in an AoE, and I want that hitting every time. And he has a move that disables. Like, him walking out there and landing a disable on like a Sephiroth, I just won. Fight's over. I won the fight.
I keep him at 97 as well. Yep.
So, okay, the last question you had was positioning of units, which I feel like I hit on a lot, but speed and CT strategy. So that's a good one. Jeff, do you want to add any context to that or what?
Well, I think it comes down, like you said earlier, it comes down to map. Because if you have a very short map, like something that is really close, tied with your units, one move and everyone's in front of each other, you really do need to decide how much you want to hold people back or move people forward.
Well, and those long range moves too. Like, how many times have you played against an Elia or something like that?
Oh gosh.
And turn one, like maybe you have a unit who's faster than her, they step forward, and then she steps forward and hits him. And you're like, oh man, I'm behind. But then you realize she's out of AP. Like, she used her whole kit on turn one, didn't kill anybody, and now she's auto attacking on turn two. She didn't buff at all. So yeah, maps are super important for positioning. And then the other thing I want to mention, and I bet you, I wonder if I did a good job with this team that I kind of was setting up for tonight. So I'm showing off here on the screen, King Bradley. He's at 114 agility. What's my Oberon at? 110. I would call this passable, but not great. The idea being, if you have two units who are doing damage to the enemy, you want their agility to be very, very similar, because you want them to chain with each other. You get a ton of extra damage if you're chaining. And ideally, like especially with a unit like Bradley, who has a 3-hit attack himself, imagine Oberon jumps, Bradley drops a 3-hit attack, and then Oberon lands his like large damage soaring strike move. That unit is dead. Like, they're just dead. It doesn't even matter if it's like Edward Elric. He's dead.
Yep.
Like, it's gonna kill him. And so that kind of Ed might live through that. Ed's kind of a monster. But like, that is that's devastating. And I remember there was a guy, he was in my guild. This is like week 2 or 3 of the game. And I was so impressed by the damage he dealt. And he was running Engelbert, Gilgamesh, or Landu. Like, that was his team. That was pretty good back then. And his whole setup was, he had this team where on turn 2, it was one of those really short square maps we had back in the day. On turn 2, his Gilgamesh would be channeling a Quicken that quickened Engelbert, and Engelbert would Taunting Blade. Then Orlando immediately went next and like would limit break or drop some AoE, and then Gilgamesh immediately went next. And he just never lost with that team, because that round of slashing damage back then, at a time when you couldn't mitigate anything, obliterated everybody. So yeah, that's when I learned agility
meta
stacking.
Is so important. Yeah.
Yep. All right, man. Well, hey, I think we accomplished our goal. That was still like 20 minutes, but it felt like a shorter 20 minutes. So there we go.
Great to speak to you, dude. Have a good time. You too. Enjoy the rest of the stream.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. All right, we'll see you later.
Cheers.
Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and let the background people know that I'm ready for the next one. So drop that in there, and then I'll look at some chat questions here. So I did have a chat question. This one, okay, Discord is like shortening people's names. You know how Discord sometimes just shortens your names? This is from Jay. Hello, Jay. Says, in a PvP mirror match, what are some things you could do to come out on top? Sync your agility. That's the biggest one. Great question. So if you're constantly fighting, like let's say you're an Earth player, but Earth is the top of the meta. Hello, future collaboration goddess. If you are matched up against like Earth on Earth a lot, if all 3 of your Earth units go back to back to back, or better yet, you run like a Dialdo, and that Dialdo is offset from your 2 DPS units, but your 2 DPS units are always chaining with each other, I think that's a good call. Otherwise, look towards maximizing your trust stones, because something like, assume if you're playing top of the line PvP that you're playing against like 140 characters who have vision cards and Espers max. They might not have ideal trust stones. So you can look to find advantages against the top of the meta units via trust stone builds. Okay, there we go. Next up, we've got, who's coming in here? Fiat, are you in here, my friend? And did I say your name right?
I think you put me in the wrong order.
Oh, are we in the wrong? Okay, Boya. Okay, yep. Yeah. Sorry, I have a
fourth,
list.
But I guess I'm third now.
Hey, welcome to third. Okay. Well, Boya, how's it going?
Oh, it's pretty good. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Hey, can you talk about yourself for a second, and I will get your voice levels adjusted while you do that.
Sure. I'm a scorned FFBE player, and that's really the only way I can define myself when it comes to this game.
Okay, a scorned Okay, in FFBE, who is your number one? Who is your favorite?
Oh, well, I mean, I still play it, but
Okay.
I would say currently I'm pretty fond of Genesis.
I don't know who that is.
He's
Do you mean
he's a-
Genesis from FF7?
Yeah. FF7 Genesis. He's a pretty meta unit at the moment in FFB.
Excellent. Okay. Maybe someday War of the Visions can inherit a Genesis.
Oh, that would be phenomenal.
I feel like there's so much untapped collaboration potential in War of the Visions still.
There is so much to draw from.
I would love more Final Fantasy Tactics personally. Like that's my number one hope. Every time like another collab's announced, I'm like Tactics rerun, more Tactics units, but then I end up just being happy with whatever is announced.
I
So,
mean,
okay.
I'll let you in on a little secret. I only pull for collab units, so all of
I
my
think you're-
teams exclusively are those units.
So I don't think you're alone in that. I think you just described a lot of players.
Yeah, fair.
And I think that's like if I had to give advice to anybody who is playing this game about like what units to use, like use units that you like. You can win with so much different stuff. So if you're all about collabs, use them. It's fun.
I agree.
Okay, so I'm gonna keep trying to refine my abilities of keeping this not into a 4-hour stream. Let's talk about, so I'm going to read your questions that you had here. You asked about starting positions of units is difficult, especially positioning tanks. Okay, did we already address that question? Like, were you here earlier? Do we talk about that a lot?
Yeah. I would say it's answered like 90% of what I think about that topic. But one
Okay,
of the
well,
other things
what's
that
the
I would
last
like
10?
All right, the last 10 is so if you compare Dialdo and Alphonse, you typically see that Alphonse uses AP trust zones instead of agility trust zones, just because he has such horrible AP management. He's slow. He's really slow, and oftentimes this like means that his team, even if they're buffing each other, sometimes they'll end up running ahead of him anyway. Like, how do you cope with that?
Yeah, so
his Shikuchi, which makes him squishier.
I actually think that's not a terrible idea. Now, Alphonse is a unit I'm slow building. So kind of one of the things I talked about when I started the stream is that I have like most things built. But my Alphonse is sitting right now. Here, watch this. I'm going to EX this guy live on stream. He's 99, but I only have 275 Mind Spheres for him. So the Guild Barracks is doing its magic for me right here. I'm just letting that grow.
Yeah, my Edward's in the same spot.
Yeah, that's, you know what? I love the Guild Barracks for this reason. Saved me some precious Vizor back in the day. But Alphonse, is he a unit that can take advantage of the King Rob's TMR? Gosh, I'm forgetting what it's called off the top of my head, but I'm gonna grab it right now. That's Glinting Armor. So this is something that I like to use on a lot of to try to just push some units forward. But a trick I'll try to use here though is I'll go back to I'm gonna talk about my Earth team for a second, because like this is kind of a team that I know really well right now. Something that can be a drawback. Because, okay, are you basically asking, like, how can you get Al to extend forward and not leave your team behind? Or your team leaves him behind, I mean.
My team leaves him behind, especially on, like, shorter maps. They'll sort of, like, I mean, even moving one space ahead of him can, like, you get one of them murdered by an AoE or, like, super chunked or debuffed or anything like that.
Absolutely.
So, them moving ahead of him in any capacity can be pretty problematic.
Okay, so check this out. Okay, so in this build right here, Dialdo is by far my slowest unit in this group. He's still a 101, so like he's not super slow. But something I could do here is, let's say Oberon, let's say I was building a team with Al that was a solo carry team. Like I had one Cloud or something, right? Some high DPS unit. And then maybe a Resnick or a unit that would not look to extend themselves. Then I would put like Al in the middle, and then Oberon here, for in this case, or whatever DPS unit that you're running, I turn on a group buff to get him to run to Al to start the fight. But since Oberon in this case is in slot 3, he would buff Al with this first. But then on his turn 2, instead of running forward, he would run to the slot 1 unit, in this case Bradley, who's also sitting next to Al, and buff him as well. So it would force my DPS unit to spend 2 turns just buffing in the back before they then spend the next couple turns moving forward themselves. That's a trick I use a lot.
Oh, that's good advice. That's good advice.
It combos really well with Rob's TMR, and I don't think Dialdo can wear Rob's TMR because, you know, that would be a little bit too broken. But it's really good. Sometimes that can cost you a little too much in tempo, but Rob's TMR makes up for that. So it automatically gives your tank a little bit of extra speed, and then it lets your units next to them get those extra turns buffing. And I that's a combo that's worked for me in the past with extra slow tanks or really fast carries.
Yeah, I'm sure that can give me maybe other ideas also on how to avoid such circumstances.
Yeah, sweet.
Just that I didn't even know anything about that slot 1 stuff beforehand, so
yes.
Well,
it's not
useful.
It is, and it's not listed in the game anywhere, and it does not work the other way necessarily. So if you have a unit that you want running around the back line buffing people, shove them in slot 3. Just make sure they're in range. That'll burn you a lot of times too. They gotta be in range to cast their buffs.
Yeah, a lot of units have movement skills too, so you can mess with
Yeah.
that.
Shikuchi being one of them for sure.
Mess
Okay.
on that one.
All right, then you only had a couple questions. So the second question was when to use. Oh, this is a good question. Okay, when to use subclasses? Example, using Trick Lancer on Pissarro often has him never using his main kit skills because the Pierce resist is lower. Yep. So, okay, go ahead. Elaborate on that question a little bit if you would.
Well, in case of Sorrow, I can't really think of any of his Trick Lancer skills off the top of my head, but oftentimes with units that have like unique main jobs, you get like better stuff on their main kit when it comes to
especially if they're new
side
collab
effects.
units.
Yes, so their new stuff has like more side effects, and oftentimes those are more important to get off than necessarily doing like 100 more damage to a tank. However, having Trick Lancer on can be really useful because, you know, it could be the difference between one-shotting a squishy unit that's weak to Pierce when he has he doesn't really have any weapon type penetration in his kit already, so he's kind of balanced on using Slash or Pierce anyway, based on their resistance as opposed to his penetration. Like Sephiroth doesn't really have a problem because he's got Slash Pen, so he's not really going to be forced to use his fist skills outside of your consent, I guess.
Yeah, Sephiroth doesn't really have problems.
Yeah, but Pissarro, I've put many things on him, and I've seen him walk up to tanks and like AP break them or do some random stuff. And it's like, oh, well, he's done for. It's GG.
So I went and looked at my Pissarro while you were talking about that, and sure enough, I have him on Trick Lancer right now. Now, I have no idea what I was exactly trying to do with this. I had Trick Lancer's lore on with Blade Soul. So, Blade Soul does give evade. What was I trying to build? So I thought I would have run Evasion Arts if I was trying to build him evade. I don't know what I was trying to do here, but it was probably me trying to get more damage out of him with Trick Lancer, because you're right. Here's how, and for people who are listening, here's how the AI works. We're talking auto PvP when it comes to damage. If there are 2 skills available, and one of those skills will do 1 more point of damage than the other skill, they will use the 1 more point of damage skill. They just go for maximum damage. So, like you said, sometimes that's good because a job like Trick Lancer often has long range, like binding javelin, right? Like, oh man, it seems so good. It's range 5, it's a medium damage, drops their healing power, can immobilize, and you're like, yes, this is such a good skill. But there's lots of problems with this as well. Like, for one, Pissarro, you want Pissarro buffing his evasion. Especially if you're running him as an evasion unit. You want him like getting evasion buffs, passing out his buffs. Maybe you're running a TMR that boosts luck or evade or something like that. You want him doing all that. You don't want him necessarily throwing spears from all the way across the map. Like, that's not ideal for him. So you definitely have to come in here and turn moves like that off. But then what you said, I thought this was a really good point. Like, if we look through Pissarro's main jobs right here, He's got like a high accuracy move. He's got a defense debuff that significantly lowers healing power. So even though this might not be the most damage at the time, lowering healing power on the enemy tank is huge. If you're fighting like tank healer damage and you knock the tank's healing power down to nothing, and their Ayaka's back there healing them for like 350, Ayaka sucks now. Like, what's she even doing? So it's really powerful, and even though it doesn't necessarily do the most damage, you still want them using it. So yeah, that's a tough thing. I honestly think there are times when you just have to you just have to think, is my team going to win via evading everything and inflicting status effects, or does my team exist to blow the enemy team off the map as quick as possible? If it's blow the enemy team off the map as quick as possible, look for sub-jobs that mix your damage types. So for Pissarro, it's slashing and piercing. For Sephiroth, it's slashing and striking, because of course it's Sephiroth. Mix your damage types so the AI can do the most damage, and then just leave a bunch of damage moves on and let them go to town. But if you want to force the AI to use certain moves, you just have to accept that you're going to have to turn other moves off. And it feels bad because your damage numbers get lower, but it often, like, if that's what your comp's built around, you just got to do it, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's definitely seems like a hard to answer question, perhaps, because it's so situational.
Yeah, it's so unit by unit, for sure.
I have one last general question.
Oh, go ahead, fire away.
Okay, so I wrote this down here. So, with new job vision cards and whatnot, how many would you say in a 3-team comp is enough job vision cards to make it meta? Because like when Fist ones were out, I'd say people started taking them more serious around like 3, so you've got a job vision card on each of them, maybe.
Yeah. So you mean specifically when you can't mono element it, when you have to go mixed element, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, for example, with the recent Final Fantasy V collabs, you've got, like, some... I've been trying out a Sephiroth and Ferris one, because I like off-meta stuff with characters I like.
Yeah.
And, let's see what I have here. Like, Sildra and Sephiroth both, or Sephiroth's vision card, both affect each other. So, you know, that's pretty useful for them.
Yes. Okay,
but, like, is too few, or are we waiting for a third good Katana Red Mage one, or Katana Knight? I can't remember which one.
I feel like Red Mage gets hooked up. I feel like Red Mage gets a new vision card like every other week somehow. Maybe that's just me. And like my I'll call it my son's account, like the baby account. It's leading into that. Like, I'm really trying to build that out. So I'm happy you asked this question, because it's something I think about a lot right now. My answer is 3. I think 3 is the answer, because the whole point of trying to build a team around these is that, generally speaking, the party ability on a job-based vision card is better than the party ability on any other vision card. So if you're only using 2 of them, because a lot of times, what are you sacrificing to make a job-based team? Well, you're sacrificing elemental group buff, because every unit in the game, I think at this point it is every unit in the game, at least 99% of them at least, if you put them in a group with units of the same element, they're giving them HP and they're giving them elemental attack up. So if you drop that, not only are you then limiting your vision card pool, because your mono element vision cards step to the side, but you're also losing survivability and damage. So to make up for that, you have really, like, I'm looking at Sildra right now, like, this is OP. Critical hit rate 30, spirit 12%, slash attack resist pin 35. That's nuts. Slash attack resist pin 35 on a vision card is great by itself, that it also comes with critical hit rate 30, and 12 spirit, like, insane. So, okay, that's great, but by itself, if I then have to supplement that with, like, Ifrit, because I'm running a off element team and I have to go to like old rainbow vision cards, you know, your Ifrits of the world, your Ramus of the world, oof, it's gonna feel bad. But I think if you have 3, if you can main slot, you know, Sildra with, I'm trying to see if I can just like Okay, Sephiroth's card, for example. You main slot Sildra's card with slash attack 42, reaction block rate 32, critical evade 20 from Sephiroth's card. Okay, now we're talking. Now maybe at 2, you start thinking about it, especially if you have like an Odin or something for your third one that gives you that unit resist.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. Because I mean, most people haven't. I mean, at least most lower rank players, I guess, haven't built every. What do you call it? What did you call it there? Like
rainbow cards?
Yeah, rainbow cards.
Yeah.
Like I don't have all of them maxed. I'm not a day 1 player or anything like that. I have Odin maxed. That's about it.
I feel like everybody picks Odin with the new player because it's so good.
It's good. Good Esper, good card. You know.
Oh yeah.
I guess I just never really thought about including them in a rainbow team for some reason, just because, I don't know, you put it when you're a noob, you put like, oh, it's an ice card in the back of your head, and then you just kind of block it out sometimes when you're building.
Well, and I think the game has changed a lot since back when so again, I'm playing having been helping my son play his new account lately. I'll just say it like that because it's fun. Back in the day, when you used to play as a new player, your first team was a rainbow team because you went for like a tank, a healer, and damage because you needed that core to clear PvE. Right now, if you start a new account, you're given everything you need to make a mono element team straight off the bat. You can just roll right into mono element, which is stronger than old rainbow. But the next evolution of that is probably getting 3 to 6 job-based vision cards and 3 PvP units that all can just take advantage of those insane buffs, and that's strong. And that strike team, when that strike team entered the meta, I definitely think that was a big moment for job-based vision cards, showing like what they can really do.
Well, I also found that King Bradley really opened that up to me because obviously you get the free card there with him, and basically anybody in his job gets to fight with King Bradley on their side, and that's a pretty huge advantage.
Yes, yeah. Anything that has oh yeah, okay, yes. I'm trying to just stick to just in the game for now, but I agree. I think that is also an important thing not to lose, is that you do still want to have like a top of the line meta unit, because they'll take advantage of everything more than anybody else. But then yeah, go nuts after that. Just make it work.
Well, that was pretty helpful.
Awesome. Well, hey, great questions, man. Great questions. Thank you for coming on today.
No problem.
All right. Well, let's see. Did I do better on time? I did. I think that was almost under 20 minutes. So there we go. I'm improving in my timing. I'm going to go ahead and tell the behind the scenes people that I'm ready for the next one. Type that out. My keyboard's so loud. You guys all probably hear me typing. But went ahead and hit that, and then I'll look at chat for a minute. We got any chatters in here dropping some questions? Yeah, Fiat, I agree. Final Fantasy Tactics rerun needs to hit ASAP. And actually, Fiat, you are one of the people, so I see you hanging out. I bet you're coming into the chat here pretty quick. Corey, you asked a question. What is the best counter against fist teams? Ooh, it's tough. Countering fist teams is really hard. I think the how to mitigate striking damage. There's not a lot of ways through vision cards and espers to mitigate striking damage. At least there's not a lot of like accessible ways. Single target resist feels better. Like I feel like a lot of striking moves, and maybe I'm wrong on this. I think I got something here though. Single target resist and AoE resist seem like the best way. Then having either a really powerful tank or the ability to just out brawl them by stacking those resists and maybe even stacking defense. Like defense, I know it's not best thing it used to be, but layer your defenses, man. If you can't find strike resist, find defense, find AoE resist, find single target resist. There's Raid rerun going right now. Build yourself Brigandine armors and survival vests. I guess that would be what I would say there. Okay. Fiat, are you in here, my man?
Yes, sir.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hey, why don't you go ahead introduce yourself to the stream, and I will adjust your voice level as well as I can.
Great. What's up, everybody? I am a Day 1 War Divisions player. Started this during like peak of lockdown. It kind of just been a hobby that's stuck ever since. Right now, kinda in like the semi-competitive to competitive range. I had like a chance to jump up to a higher power guild, but I had to jump back a while last week because school's starting up and I'm trying to just get this diploma so I can feed my gacha addiction.
My man.
But yeah,
if you don't mind me asking, what are you studying?
Oh, I am a mechanical engineering major.
Okay, excellent choice. I think that's a great degree. Way to go. Close to finished?
I got like 2 or 3 semesters. The goal is to graduate in August. So right now I'm just like I'm at the final stretch. I see the light, and also these classes are man.
Yeah, hard.
Hard, but rewarding.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, welcome to the stream. Let's I'm reading over the questions that you submitted, and here's what I see. You have, as you climb the ranks of PvP, be it guild battle or duels, do you prioritize survivability or DPS? That's a phenomenal question because it's very different than anything anybody's asked so far. So do you want to build on that at all, or like what is that it, or do you have something you want to add?
I guess like since like as I've been listening, I keep on hearing you mention that also speed is very much of a like an important factor. So I guess if you were to really rank DPS, survivability, and speed, which would be the most important of the 3?
So I honestly, like, I don't even put for speed. I just think you must have speed, because we're talking about competing in I guess when I'm talking about competing here, I'm talking about in like these tournaments, for example. And kind of one of the goals of the stream was to just give tips so more people would feel comfortable joining the tournaments. Look, speed's non-negotiable, but it's also very obtainable. Like, just get a lot of agility and try to make your agility numbers next to each other. So I do think because of how generically important it is, I would put that at 1, although it's like side 1. Like, I think you're going to build either damage or survivability, but also speed every time. So I guess I would rank speed as 1, but like kind of in its own category. And then with damage or survivability, I think it depends on what you're looking to fight. So if I build a team that is all damage and I'm just like, man, I'm leaning all into it, I might even forego AoE resist, or more likely forego single target resist for more slash attack or more attack or more piercing or something like that. What scares me in that case is if I'm picking a fight, especially let's talk about like arena here, for example. If I'm picking an arena fight and I see a team that looks really well built and has like Dialdo, and I'm like, ooh, if every one of my units hits him and he lives, I lose. If I unload a whole round of damage on him and I don't kill him, especially if he's got somebody to heal him backing him up, I'm in a lot of trouble, because as soon as like they start damaging me, I don't have anybody to necessarily soak that, and I might not have a healer to heal that up. So, at that point it's trouble. So I feel like it's a safer play to play a tank. It's an easier play to play a tank. But if you're running like Earth, you really used to be like this. Before Dialdo was around, all Earth did was like, it had units that were hard to kill. You gave them as much AoE resist, single target resist, defensive stats, and just let them do their thing. Knowing that like they're probably not killing somebody in one hit, but if you can get them to chain with each other, they can out DPS the enemy and bring him down. So I guess, like, which one do I prioritize more? Ooh, man, I would say damage. I think the answer is damage. I think it didn't used to be that. I think when the game had less had less piercing in it, had less attack type piercing, less defense and spirit pin, I think the answer back then would have been if you had a Warrior of Light with a 90 defense and you were fighting physical teams, you just won. Like it was over. But now I assume that everyone has defense pin and everyone has spirit pin. And if they're running a mono slash team, they have every unit on that team has at least 40 and probably more like 80 or 90 slash attack pin. So I don't think you can plan on at the highest level being able to out tank the enemy. So therefore you better be able to kill them. So I think you must bring damage, but if you can bring survivability, that's a bonus. You just have to look for like modern survivability, which again, I mention this all the time, is AoE resist and single target resist. And then bring whatever else you can, but you kind of have to have the AoE resist. Otherwise, Sephiroth walks out there, diamond-shaped AoEs your whole team, and it's over.
Gotcha, yeah. I felt that was weird. It's too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Because, so, at least as far as my account is concerned, I kind of got shoehorned into like 2 elements because, whenever I summon for outside of elements, I either have to, pity it or it just flies by. So right now I'm rocking with like pretty much just lightning.
Okay.
Which isn't bad. I'm not complaining about that.
Yeah, that's good elements at least.
Oh yeah, but so at least kind of what I try to do is I've been figuring out how much survivability I can give up in a sense. Like what I really like to do is a comp I like to run is it's like Sylvie, Stern, and Arts.
Okay.
And
ooh, that's solid. Wing? Are you talking Wing Stern?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
And sometimes when I come into issues with like it can't really tank a hit, but one of the things that I've noticed is that even on the attacks that I do, and I for lack of a better term, brick.
Yeah.
I get a lot of things like I'll get re-raises, I'll get burst heals, I'll get pretty much everything. So I guess that's where my first question comes from.
Okay, so yeah, I'll wrap up the first question with this. I'll talk about that team specifically. Let's look at Sylvie. You got 2 options with Sylvie, and this should just dictate the way you build. Do you want Sylvie to try to heal and be a support? If so, bring survivability, because heals are useless if people are died in one shot. But Sylvie's also a really great damage dealer who's difficult to tank via just that she's like magic based and all of that, brings that magic to your team. And so if you're going to have Sylvie be a damaging unit, well then, okay, like to go for more damage, lean into slash resist penetration, which that team would love some slash resist penetration, things like that. So it depends on like really what you want your Sylvie to do. Do you want Sylvie healing your units? Well then bring Brigandine armors, AoE resist, get your defense and spirit up there. If your units can survive 2 hits and then Sylvie LBs them and now they're full health with a shield, your survivability is looking pretty good. However, if by the time her turn gets there, people are dead and maybe she's just trying to like bring them back to life, well, what's she doing? Bringing them back to life so they just die on the next round? So in that case, she'd be better off trying to just AoE kill the enemy team, which, and you know this, you play Sylvie, that's something that happens with Sylvie for me a lot, is like her other units will extend, like overextend maybe a little bit, because her IA likes to, it's pretty sitting there. And like my Wing Stern sometimes will end up really fighting for a while, dies, my other unit's dead, but the other 3 enemies are standing there, and Sylvie walks up and is like, oh, that's no big deal, kills them all. I'm like, way to go, Sylvie. So, a win's a win.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Hey, I wanted to address, we got to keep it moving because I'm doing a very poor job of time management here. But you did have a second question that I wanted to get to before we move on to the last person? And I think this is a fantastic question. You say, when branching out to other elements, what matters more? Did you want to add any more context to that question?
So, I'm basically in like the Elia, the bridal Elia waiting room right now, as far as my account is concerned.
Lightning.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So, because also I have Edward almost built up. My Alphonse is 140. So really, I'm waiting for that strike team to really come and take the field. But recently, I've been kind of feeling some of that FOMO. I had to miss out on things like Raph and Dialdo because really I was unsure of how timelines were coming up.
Yeah.
So
sure, Road to Worldwide being what it is, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess my thing is I have some pretty heavy hitters in other elements. So like for example, I have I got a King Bradley, and then
heavy hitter indeed.
Oh yeah. And then I got pretty decent wind box to cover Earth. But the question kind of comes into the fact that with the rise of rainbow units, rainbow teams coming on, should you plan out your rainbow teams based off of the units that you got, or should it be more so the equipment and the other and like the
I think the answer is just vision cards. Like honestly, I think the answer is VCs. Like the hardest thing, and so I'll talk about this from I have a day one account that like is shown on the screen right here, and a month-old account. And the answer to that question that limits me in branching out for both accounts is, do I have vision cards that will support those teams? And that's like units. If you obviously have to have the units to build around, right? Like you need 3 units, but you really only need like 1 premium unit, like King Bradley you mentioned, right? You could run King Bradley with any other 2 units and he's still King Bradley. If you have the vision cards to support that group, they're going to do great things for you. So I think if you're talking about like adding another element to your account, the hardest thing to build in this game right now is old vision cards. So if you have an opportunity, like if you're trying to plan your account and you want to become an Earth player, like maybe Earth is just like, hey, like someday I want to play Earth, or I want to play King Bradley's job type. If you see a vision card that supports that element or that job type, and you can pick it up and build it, vision cards aren't that expensive to pick up. And if they're on banner and you can hit that bingo board and finish them out, you are now like one of the hardest steps closer to finishing that build. So I think a vision cards is the answer to that question.
That's it. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Well, hey, thank you for joining the stream, man. Appreciate it a lot. Good. Hey, good luck in school too. Good luck.
I can say the same to you, man.
Thank you. You never stop going to school for some reason too. Like I still got tests I got to study for and all that. And you try to mix it in, but you know, it's hard to not play video games when you get home, if we're being honest. It's tough. All right, man. Well, hey, have a great evening.
Hey, you too. Have a good one, man.
Thank you. All right. See ya. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and let the people know that I'm ready for the next one here. I'll just type ready in there, and I'll look at some chat questions while we're hanging out real quick. I saw some really good ones, like C, and I only see C for the name asks, how do you decide which teams to hunt when doing PvP? So, and he said besides the obvious, right? Like obviously if you're an Earth team, you look for lightning, no kidding, we all know that. But then what I like to do when I'm building PvP teams is I like to lean my team either into more defense or more spirit. And so what I mean by that is, like, if I'm equipping armor or accessories on my units, I like to go more for like, ooh, maybe I'm going to go with like a defensive black garb, right? And I just kind of remember if my team has a little more defense or a little more spirit. And then if I can't find the perfect matchup, I look for more physical or more magic. It's kind of like a secondary option there. Okay, great question, C. So thank you for that. And then I think we have Notafix coming in. Notafix, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Welcome. Why don't you introduce yourself to the stream while I set up your voice levels?
Okay, I'm Notafix. I am a proud member of SALT. Shout out
Hey.
SALT. And I actually started the game the very first Final Fantasy Tactics collab because I was such a huge fan of Tactics. And then I kind of stopped playing for quite a while.
Okay.
And got back into it last year and have been playing catch up mostly.
Yeah, missing a while will definitely get you there, especially in the vision card department. I feel like vision cards are just so hard to get. Like they're so hard to get and build.
Yeah, I've caught up with all of the mainline vision cards now.
Good.
I still have a few that I'm working on, slow building, but I'm just missing some of the collab ones now.
Sweet. Well, way to represent the Salt Squad community too. Way to get in here. Love it. We need somebody to go win a tournament. You know what I mean? We got to put somebody in the grand finals.
I'm working on it. I haven't got picked yet.
Okay, we'll keep entering. All right. Well, so Notafix, I got a couple questions that you submitted here, so let's take a look at those. Question 1 was team building for turn order / buff openers. We've talked about that a lot on stream. Did you have something you were specifically wanting to add to that, or should we move on to the other questions?
I think most of it's been covered.
Sweet.
So I think we can move on past that now.
Okay. Then the second question was meta counters. Now this is a big one. So expand on that question a little bit. Are you talking for tournament play? Are you talking for Guild Wars? Are you talking for arena? Expand on that one a little bit.
Kind of a mix of I want to prepare for when I eventually definitely will get picked for the tournament, and top 10 to 20 guild battle, the meta walls being dark or fire evade is everywhere.
Yeah.
Some light walls, but I have a problem with, I think I build my teams too, especially for attack. I like building a general team and then go up against a meta team, and I normally leave it at least a good cleanup, but sometimes it's just if there's not a good target for me, then I feel like I'm not pulling my weight.
Yeah. Well, okay, so yeah, one thing I think you used a good term there. You said you build general teams. I feel like general teams don't work at the high end. I feel like you must have a specific thing. I feel like high end PvP is all about building either the meta, which you could definitely, build a Sephiroth team or a Bradley team right now, and then the meta will continue to shift all the time. You could play, one thing I think you could do to beat the meta is, and I'll apply this to both Guild Wars and the tournament scene. So Earth Walls, that's something I see regularly, is I see Bradley, Dialdo, anything else Earth as kind of a wall. So I could build a wind team. Wind team that's maybe flag glassy with a Joom or a Soddly with some other things. Then really, really build into anti-Earth. That's going to be a great pocket pick for tournament scene, especially if you're playing, if you get to those last rounds of the tournament and you're going against somebody who's been just spamming Bradley teams. If you have a pocket pick anti-Earth wind team, it's kind of it's a little bit of a risk because maybe they swap off of Earth. But if they're beating you with Earth and you build a wind team that's not just a wind team, but builds Earth resist on top of being wind and is particularly good at killing them, you might be able to just pocket out a W. And in a best of 3, that puts you 1 win away from taking the whole thing, and it probably puts them on your back foot. In Guild Wars, it makes it so you basically are guaranteeing yourself either maybe not 6 stars in Guild Wars, but at least a clean 3 into a good open on another team where you really weaken them. And then at that point, if you don't run into the wall you built to beat, as long as your team is strong enough, you just look to clean up, right? Like sometimes in Guild Wars, you just have to accept the fact that like I built Earth and they have a wind wall, which doesn't really happen that much. So I am just not going to log on it right when Guild Wars starts and just wipe and put my guild in a hole. I think that's kind of how you look at it there. As far as the tournament scene goes, I think you just have to have, like, I would build 4 or 5 teams. I would have 2 or 3 that were my favorites. And for like generic, if I was going to try to have a team that if I had no read on my opponent at all, I would have a dark team ready or a light team ready, because there's not a direct counter to that. And if you had Sephiroth and you just built like a really strong dark team around him, maybe they try to take advantage of like some Lemure, some kind of speed cheese, get some, quickens in there, something like that. I would have a team that was very speed tuned, ready to go, that took advantage of one of my strongest units and then supported them in whatever way I could as a just generic counter to the meta. And then maybe that could be a way of also fishing out a strong elemental team from your opponent to then play your counter, to then try to maybe put them off of their element team so you could go back to your like Sephiroth team or something like that. Like that's how I would game it, but I obviously can't play in the tournaments because I'm on this side of the thing. So, did that answer the question?
Yes.
Okay, sweet. Okay, and you had one more too. Your last question was vision card building priority. Oh, I got a good answer for this one. Build every one of them that benefits your account at all. Like, I know it's okay. There's a caveat here. The caveat is Dark Espers. So I just pulled on my account for Dark Shiva. IMO, like Dark Shiva for both of my accounts that I'm currently running was a must-have, especially for one of them. But it's not necessarily that way for everyone, and these are very, very hard vision cards to get. Most VCs, you got a 5-step. It's maximum 10k viz to get the thing. Then you have a bingo board, which is great. You have Mog medals, you have stars. You can build a new, not 90 cost vision card, but like Elena's card, for example. You can go get yourself an Elena card for fairly cheap. Oh, wait, hold on. I'm not going to pull. I have tickets. I was about to just like auto pull on this stream. This is not a pulling stream. This is a PvP consultation stream. Anyway, regular vision cards, maximum 10k viz to get. You have a bingo board that just gives you a bunch of shards, so it's not a big hit in the Visior bank for for building it out. And if it's a vision card that you're going to use now or going to use very soon, the best time to get it and build it is when it comes out. Sure, you can off banner it later, but off bannering it later and then building it means either 1 shard a day through hard quests, or picking up shop deals that are like select vision card tickets, which we don't just get all the time. So it's very, very hard to build a vision card after it's passed, right? And I hope this is something that becomes easier to do as the game goes on. But I think we have something I can... I'm checking the shop. I believe in the Global Festival shop, there is something right now. Maybe it's in the like deluxe shop. So like as an example, you have this vision card training pack. So right now, and this is a good pack, for 1k viz, you could get 25 select vision card shards. And even though this is a good deal, even if I was to buy all 3 of these, it's still only 75 shards. So yes, that will speed up me building a vision card that maybe I just pulled off banner. I'm still a long way from home. A long way from home. So vision card building priority, whatever's currently out, if it's something you want, just get it and build it. You won't regret it. Having more vision cards is a great thing, especially if it's a good vision card. Again, the caveat being Dark Espers. If you don't have a pile of Viz, those can be costly than the others. That makes sense?
Yeah. I actually have been keeping up with the Dark Espers, and That's the exact way that I've been going about it. Is when new vision cards come out, I make sure most of the time the 10K, sometimes the 2K paid when they're feeling generous.
I love those. I love those 2K paid vision cards. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I've been keeping up. It's mostly the catch up with old ones and the elements that I haven't mained, which was my biggest one that I'm behind on now is Earth. So I don't know which of the old vision cards.
Sure.
I guess.
So do you have Dark Golem?
I do.
Okay, so what I was going to say for Earth, and let me switch to my Earth cards here from Wind. If you have Dark Golem, it gives you the AoE resist, which is a must. I think if you're not running AoE resist, you're just wrong at this point. So if you didn't have Dark Golem, an old vision card that would have been beneficial would have been, what's this one called? Dreams of Heroism, because there you could get your AoE resist. But if you have that one, I mean, you're going to need some single target resist, I think. You need speed, and Earth does have the Halloween monsters. So if a Halloween rerun ever comes up and you don't have Halloween monsters, there's your 15% agility card for Earth. Comes with Pierce attack resist and Spirit, which are mid, but it's a very good card for the agility anyway. And then Eleflicolocaris is always, I mean, that card is just nuts. I can't speak the word, but it's agility and unit attack resist. Like, what a combo of stats. I think that one is I run it on like every Earth team.
Yeah, that is
somewhere.
on my daily list of vision cards right now.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, Notafix, anything else you would like to add? Anything you would? I feel like this one is going to end up being the shortest one of all, and I don't want to short you. Do you have anything else you want to say? Any other questions you want to ask?
I do have one more.
Okay.
So I have been fully awakening my first unit with Ferris, waiting for summer to come around.
Okay.
So I have been trying to theory craft the best third unit, and I have a 140 Perrine and Amnulus, and I am trying to figure out between the two. I guess.
Look, it's Perrine. It's Perrine. It's gotta be Perrine, right?
So I love Perrine for my strike team, and Amnulus, there's so many like ice vision cards with good magic on it that I think that Amnulus could hold and do really well with.
Okay, so yeah, I think that's the key right there. Is like, if you need to work, like, Amnulus does not suck. You can see, like, I have my Amnulus at 140, and I actually have her at 140 in anticipation of exactly what you're talking about. Like, I can't wait for summer to take advantage of my Ferris for reasons I won't mention. #sponsored stream. But I 140'd her. She's ready to go. I have a Trust Master built and ready. I love Ferris's design, her kit, all of that. So like, she's ready to rock. But I think unit to unit, Perrine's a better unit. That's how I feel. But like you said, if I need to work in some magic-based VCs to make my water team work, it's not much of a fault. Amnulus is real good. Real good. So you're not going to hurt yourself there.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Notafix, thank you so much for coming online, and I hope you and the rest of the people in Salt Squad have a wonderful, wonderful evening.
You too.
Hope you guys win your Guild Wars today, too. GG. All right. See you, man. All right, guys. And that will conclude tonight's stream. So I'm going to end by just once again shouting out the tournaments. One of the things I hope that that maybe people saw tonight was just that, like, there's a lot of ways, even if you're not a day one player or a huge whale, to really maximize like your ability in auto PvP. You can agility sync. You can stack your AoE resist. You can get your turn 1, turn 2 movements. Those are things that all of the good auto PvP players do. And then, hey, maybe you only have 1 or 2 teams that you can bring and play. If they're 1 or 2 really well-built teams, you have a shot. You have a shot, and you get a trophy. There's t-shirt. You get the t-shirt just for being in the tournament. So sign up. We're not hurting for sign-ups or anything like that, but I would just like to see. Here's what I feel about it, guys. This is my stream tonight. So I'm going to just give you my take. I love PvP in War of the Visions. And especially these official tournaments feel like kind of like my baby, right? And I would really like for these to run for a really long time. So I feel like if we are flooding entries into there, if we show a huge amount of interest as a community, then they'll stick around and stay. And I would love to also be the voice of the 2024 PvP championships, the 2025 PvE championships. You know what I'm saying? So it's all about, though, interest, right? We're not going to do it if there's not interest. So I would love for people to keep playing, join the PvP server. Let's show the official PvP season some love. And then let's show the unofficial PvP season some loves too. If you play in those tournaments, those are great. PvP is wonderful. I do want to shout out one last time the dates for what we still have this year. September 16th is the next official tournament. It's a manual tournament, so keep that in mind, in those European time zones. Then October 21st and November 11th are last chance qualifiers for both auto and manual, with the championships being in December. You see that on the right. And then also, here's the times for all of those on the screen as well, including the one the one later next month. The one for this month is already over. Next month is right there. There it is. Okay, y'all, thank you guys for watching. I'm going to go ahead and go to the ending screen here. Loved it. Loved it. Had a great time. Thank you to the guests. Thank you to the people working behind the scenes. Thank you, Square Enix, for sponsoring this stream. And have a wonderful day, everybody. I will see you next time. Peace.